The anime tells the story of Anti-Magic Academy, a training school for inquisitors, or soldiers who prevent witches from destroying the world. The students at this academy are divided into many platoons, and among them, there is one platoon known to be filled with pathetic people, namely Platoon 35. The platoon leader is Kusanagi Takeru, a boy who always carries a katana, even though almost all students in the academy rely on firearms or magic. Because of this, he is always the subject of ridicule by his fellow students, as seen at the beginning of the anime, where two academy students openly looked down on him. However, Takeru ignored the insults. After all, he must graduate from the academy and become an inquisitor to pay off the debts left by his parents and for the sake of his beloved sister. For that, he didn't want to cause trouble at the academy. So without even replying to the two students' insults, Takeru continued to walk towards the 35th platoon room to meet his two strange members, namely Suginami Ikaruga, a hacker, and Sayonji Usagi, a genius sniper. But just as they were deep in conversation, a new member came into the room. She is Atori Oka, a great fighter and the adopted daughter of the principal of the academy, Atori Sogetsu. She had actually become an inquisitor. But for being guilty of slaughtering a witch, she was demoted from her position as inquisitor and required to return to the academy as punishment. And to make matters worse, she was put into Platoon 35. So with this new member, Platoon 35 carries out its mission, which is to retrieve an artifact to catch a criminal. Before taking action, they divide their respective tasks. Takeru and Oka enter their target building, and Usagi will attack from a distance with her sniper rifle. At the same time, Ikaruga monitors the situation around them while giving them directions. However, their teamwork was completely messed up. Instead of shooting at the building that Takeru entered, Usagi opened fire at another building. As a result, Takeru was surrounded by armed men. Platoon 35 really proves to be a lousy team. Seeing Takeru only carrying a sword, the criminals then belittled and mocked him, making him furious. Then, unexpectedly, Takeru turned out to be very skilled in the sword. He can even split the bullets into two with his sword, leaving his opponents speechless. But before continuing his action, Oka finally appeared and subdued the criminals with ease. She even did it alone. But one of the criminals turned out to be able to use instant magic and took out a dragoon, a weapon belonging to the Inquisitors. And with the dragoon, he started attacking Oka. But all of that proved to be no problem for her. With Oka's capable abilities, she can again defeat the enemy easily. And Platoon of 35 finally completed their mission. But the next day, the atmosphere in Platoon 35 turned sour. Oka bluntly says that she can't cooperate with Usagi and the others, whom she judges incompetent at work. Therefore, she decided to carry out the next mission alone. But Takeru did not remain silent. He insists on going with her because he is her captain. In the next mission, Takeru and Oka must investigate Valhalla, a criminal organization of witches. But after they managed to infiltrate and arrest several members of Valhalla, they discovered that the organization experimented with children and even got the children killed. Unable to contain her anger, Oka then intended to kill the members of Valhalla they had just captured. However, she did hold a grudge against the witches because they massacred her entire family in the past. And seeing those children fall victim to the Valhalla witches only made her hatred even more intense. Luckily, Takeru was able to stop her before she could pull the trigger. Not only that, but he made her regain her serenity. The next day, Oka gets information from Sogetsu that someone in Platoon 35 is a Relic Eater candidate. Relic Eaters themselves were those who could contract with legendary magical weapons. Despite the news, Oka still didn't want to recognize the people in Platoon 35 as her comrades. The scene then switches to Haunted, a necromancer and alchemist who uses his magic to summon Einherjar, the resurrected soul of King Arthur, wielding a handheld railgun infused with the magic of Excalibur. His goal is to free the Valhalla magicians imprisoned by the Anti-Magic Academy. At the same time, Oka and Takeru are visiting the grave of Oka's family, who died 9 years ago. But while they were talking, suddenly there was an explosion from the direction of the city, which turned out to be caused by Haunted and Einherjar. Without wasting any time, Takeru and Oka went straight to the scene. The undead that Haunted had resurrected had filled the streets, forcing Takeru to draw out his sword to kill them. Meanwhile, Sogetsu announces to each student that the Einherjar is heading towards the academy, and so he asks the students to help with the academy's defense. Takeru and his team decided to join in, not caring that they were only F-rank students, the lowest ranking in the academy. Oka seems to be trying to help other injured students in another corner. But at this moment, the Einherjar suddenly came and attacked her, forcing her to fight it alone. But the Einherjar was not a random opponent. Oka struggles against it to the point that she has to use her magic weapon, Vlad. This shows that she is a relic eater, even though she has not yet entered into a full contract with Vlad. Oka could heal her wounds and inflict a barrage of fire on Einherjar with the twin guns, but all those attacks were still not enough to defeat it. She could have even lost her life in that battle if Takeru had not come to her rescue. Not only Takeru, but Usagi also came to help. Then the two of them team up against the Einherjar. Takeru fights head-on with his sword, while Usagi shoots from the top of the building. But even by combining powers, they were no match for the Einherjar. Einherjar sent Takeru flying far away with a single strike until he was seriously injured. But during Takeru's critical condition, a little girl suddenly approached him. The girl, whose name was Lapis, became a weapon in human form. She came to offer Takeru a contract. She is willing to give him strength but on the condition that he has to give up his human side. During his current condition, Takeru had no other choice but to accept her offer. And so, he received Lapis' power. Miraculously, his wounds were healed, and his body was now covered in a powerful suit. Not only that, but Lapis gave him a sword that could absorb enemy magic. And with his newfound power, he was able to defeat the Einherjar. Exhausted, Takeru approached Oka and asked her never to bear the burden alone. They were comrades in arms, and so she could depend on him. After saying that, Takeru collapsed with his head falling on her lap. And here, Oka seems to be willing to accept Platoon 35 as part of her life. The next day, Takeru introduces Lapis to his friends and Sogetsu. Sogetsu had prepared an identity file for Lapis, who from now on would pretend to be Takeru's sister so as not to cause a ruckus in the academy. The good news doesn't stop there. Platoon 35 now has one new member, Nikaido Mari. However, Oka and Mari cannot work together because they don't trust each other. They compete with each other in class, making their relationship worse. On the other hand, Takeru and Mari's relationship is going well. They understood and respected each other as members of Platoon 35. Some time passed until the day of the tournament announcement at the Anti-Magic Academy arrived. Takeru was enthusiastic about the tournament, but the other students looked down on him as usual, and one of them is Kyoya. On tournament day, things seemed to be going badly for Platoon 35. The tournament had only just entered the first round, but they were completely out of sync, making them the laughingstock of the crowd. Fortunately, they were able to win the match and were entitled to advance to the next round to fight Platoon 15. But when the second match had only been running for a while, suddenly Haunted appeared. Seeing the presence of a high-profile criminal, the security forces immediately shot him with a barrage of bullets. But quickly, Haunted cast seal magic that protected him from the bullets. As a result, Takeru and his team were trapped inside the barrier. Takeru tries to fight back using his newfound power, but Haunted is a relic eater and a more skilled swordsman. He was able to defeat Takeru and even stabbed him in the chest. Fortunately, Takeru has Lapis, who can heal his wounds. Then something unexpected happened. Haunted reveals that Mari is actually a former member of Valhalla, and Haunted's arrival this time was none other than to bring her back. But Takeru certainly didn't let him do whatever he wanted. Instead, Takeru reminds Mari that she is his friend, and she should use her magic to save people, not for criminal organizations like Valhalla. Takeru once again tried to fight Haunted after analyzing his strength, but they clearly had a level difference, and he fell again before Haunted. At this time, Oka and Mari finally moved to help Takeru so that he could deal his final blow to Haunted. They then clashed swords. And in the end, Takeru was able to win the fight, forcing Haunted to temporarily retreat. After the fight, Mari immediately expresses her gratitude to Takeru, who has considered her a friend, even though she is a former member of Valhalla. Sometime later, another problem came to Platoon 35. It had to do with Usagi. It turns out that her parents have set her up with a guy named Reima. But the problem is that Reima is a ruthless person who only sees her as his property. She was very afraid of him, and even just meeting him could give her a panic attack. Luckily, Takeru saw what happened, and he immediately embraced Usagi and tried to calm her down. After knowing about Usagi and Reima's relationship and how bad Reima is, Takeru warns him to stop bothering Usagi. She is Takeru's friend, and he won't hand her over to a man like him. But Reima doesn't heed Takeru's warning at all. Instead, he continues to terrorize Usagi, and to carry out his plan, he is assisted by Mephistopheles, a witch who can destroy people's minds. Realizing that the situation is not getting better, Takeru then saves Usagi just as Reima is about to force her to marry him at the Academy Church. He then challenges Reima to a one-on-one fight, and without any difficulty, Takeru manages to defeat him, and at the same time, thwart Reima's marriage to Usagi. But that doesn't mean it's over. Takeru and others still had to kill Mephistopheles. For that, Ikaruga gives Usagi special bullets that can kill Mephistopheles. Usagi and Mari then work together to capture Mephistopheles, who has possessed Oka. And luckily, Takeru came just in time to help them. But even though they won in numbers, they still had a hard time defeating Mephistopheles, who was superior to all of them. Fortunately, Usagi has been equipped with 2 special bullets. She fires the first bullet at Oka's body to drive Mephistopheles out. And after that, she fired a second bullet at Mephistopheles directly to destroy her soul. With the expulsion of Mephistopheles from her body, Oka's soul can return to her body. The story then continues with Sogetsu receiving information about the Lost Matrix, the sole remaining cell of Dark Elves that the alchemists want to use to create weapons. Thus he summoned Ikaruga, who had previously researched the Lost Matrix with her twin sister. In the conversation, it was revealed that Ikaruga is a human created by alchemists using genetic engineering. Sogetsu wants Ikaruga to tell him where the Lost Matrix is. However, she gave him no meaningful information and left immediately, making Sogetsu suspect she was keeping something secret. Sure enough, Ikaruga then announced to Platoon 35 that she would be taking time off from the academy. Just like Sogetsu, Takeru and the others were suspicious of her. They noticed she was acting strange. After leaving the academy, Ikaruga headed towards the national borders, specifically to the base where her twin sister Isuka was located. While in the underground tunnel leading to Isuka's headquarters, Ikaruga contacts Isuka, informing her half-sister that she has the Lost Matrix and will hand it over to her, but with the condition that Isuka must allow her to observe the experiment in resurrecting the Dark Elves. Unfortunately, Isuka herself turned out to be a researcher who collaborated with Valhalla, and she was indeed conducting forbidden research to resurrect Dark Elves. On the other hand, Takeru and the others are worried about Ikaruga secretly following her, but they get lost and are attacked by the Mafia, causing them to be separated. Fortunately, Takeru managed to find and save Ikaruga before taking her to hide in a building in the chaos. But, unfortunately, even when he did so, he got quite badly injured. So because of that, Ikaruga again contacted Isuka, asking her to send troops for help. She then threatens, if her friends get hurt, she will not give the Lost Matrix to Isuka. Isuka dispatched troops and secured Oka, Usagi, and Mari. When the 3 of them arrived at her base, she told them about Isuka and Ikaruga's past. In the past, they were both researchers working for alchemists. But then, Ikaruga is interested in family relationships and begins to question her life. Therefore, she created a baby elf which she named Kanaria. But Kanaria had absolutely no magical powers, so she was considered a failed creation. And just because of that reason, the alchemists intended to execute Ikaruga. Realizing that her life was in danger, Ikaruga decided to run away with Kanaria and the Lost Matrix. She manages to find the Lost Matrix, but not Kanaria, who has been discarded by the alchemists. Reluctantly, Ikaruga went alone to the Anti-Magic Academy. She chose to take refuge there because if the alchemists tried to reclaim the Lost Matrix from her, it would be tantamount to challenging the Inquisitors to war. However, Isuka chose to stick with the alchemists before she finally betrayed them and defected to Valhalla. The scene then shifts to Sogetsu, who as soon as he finds out what's going on, directs troops to rescue the students who were caught by Isuka. Meanwhile, Ikaruga and Takeru are still taking shelter in the abandoned building. But unexpectedly, she drugged him, so he could not move and follow her. After that, she left alone to confront Isuka. Oka, Mari, and Usagi are finally released from Isuka's base. But once knowing that Ikaruga is in danger, they are determined to return there to save her. Fortunately, at this point, the troops led by Sogetsu arrived. Sogetsu came with weapons, which he then handed to Usagi and the others. They all need weapons because if they want to save Ikaruga, they have to go to war with Valhalla. Meanwhile, Takeru can now move again after the anesthetic wears off. He then activated Lappy's power, causing the anesthetic effect to completely disappear from his body. And with that, he fights the enemies controlling the Dragoons before reuniting with Oka, Mari, and Usagi. At Isuka's headquarters, Ikaruga reveals her goal to destroy the Dark Elf Project and save Isuka. But Isuka, who had been modified by the alchemists to feel pain whenever she experienced an emotion, still asked Ikaruga to hand over the Lost Matrix. She wanted so badly to get it. She even shot Ikaruga in the leg. But Ikaruga can't give it up because she turns out to have implanted the Lost Matrix in her body, making the DNA in these cells affect her own DNA, so that she can transform into a dark elf and cast bomb magic. But at this time, Haunted suddenly appeared and stabbed Isuka in her stomach, angering Ikaruga. Ikaruga then launched a destructive attack that shattered the top floor. That gave Ikaruga a chance to try to save Isuka. But unfortunately, Isuka couldn't be saved. After telling Ikaruga that Kanaria was still alive and was now with Valhalla, Isuka breathed her last on Ikaruga's lap. At this moment, Haunted took out a wyvern, making Ikaruga nearly fall off the building. Fortunately, Takeru came at the right time. He manages to save Ikaruga and bring her to safety before returning to fight the wyvern. He tries to distract the dragon so that Usagi can shoot it to open the body's core. Without wasting any time, Takeru immediately jumped up and stabbed it. But before he could finish off the wyvern, Takeru's relic eater ran out. Luckily he had Mari, who instantly gave him her mana, giving him the power to launch a finishing blow on the wyvern. After the wyvern died, Takeru returned to Ikaruga, who vowed to continue fighting for Kanaria. He then promised to help her. A few days after the incident, Takeru encounters his sister, Kiseki. She is being held in a maximum security prison for not being able to control the power of her curse. Takeru feels very sad to see Kiseki's sad condition in prison, and therefore he promises to free her one day and give her a normal life. After Takeru left, Sogetsu went to the prison and saw how Kiseki was chained and drugged. It turns out that Kiseki should be treated like that because she has a demon body that can make her able to absorb everything she touches, and it makes her demon body parts grow uncontrollably. And if that continues, in the end, her power can destroy the world. But then, after Kiseki was drugged, she had a dream about her brother. In the dream, she saw Takeru left her alone to be with another woman. As a result, Kiseki went berserk, and her power unknowingly burst out, making her transform into a horned demon. Seeing the horror, Sogetsu's right hand, Kurogane, immediately entered Kiseki's isolation cell to subdue her while shouting for her brother to come. Meanwhile, Takeru is on a mission to capture a dangerous witch. He chased his target to the alley, but instead of finding the witch, he found Kiseki, who had escaped from prison. Meanwhile, the witch he was hunting for had died and was absorbed by Kiseki. Takeru then takes Kiseki to a safe place and introduces her to his friends in Platoon 35. He then doesn't forget to explain Kiseki's dangerous power to them. Hearing Takeru's story, the girls of Platoon 35 gave him a chance to spend some time alone. Takeru agreed with their suggestion, and then he took Kiseki for a walk and have fun in the entertainment district so she could calm down. But during their time together, Kiseki suddenly made a surprising request to Takeru. She was well aware that she was very dangerous to other people, and she didn't want to kill humans anymore. Therefore, she wanted him to kill her. But Takeru refused her request. He has promised to make her happy, and he will find a way to save her and remove her curse, no matter what. He will only kill her with his own hands when she loses complete control over herself. And if that happens, he will die with her. Elsewhere, two members of Valhalla, Kusanagi Arachi and Kanaria, have received information about Kiseki's escape from prison. They had been targeting Kiseki from the start, and as soon as they found out that she was free, they immediately made plans to capture her. Meanwhile, on their way home, Takeru and Kiseki met Kyoya, who was walking with his relic eater Yoshimizu. Seeing Kiseki, without the slightest hesitation, they immediately tried to kill her, making Takeru activate his relic eater to protect his little sister. And the battle between Takeru and Kyoya began. The fight, however, was interrupted by the arrival of Kurogane and his troops, who had received instructions from Sogetsu to capture Kiseki. Shortly after, Sogetsu came and asked Takeru to hand over Kiseki. As if realizing he couldn't do anything to protect Kiseki, Takeru was forced to let them capture her. Sogetsu explains to Takeru that they are going to put Kiseki into the secret facility of the alchemists so they can suppress her powers. As for Takeru himself, for his mistake in helping Kiseki avoid arrest, he had to be thrown into solitary confinement. At this moment, a flashback shows Takeru finding his father locking Kiseki in a warehouse near their house. His father explained that the daughters in their family were born as demons over generations, and so they were killed as soon as they were born. But every now and then, stronger demon daughters are born, and one of them is Kiseki. Her strength was so strong that she couldn't even be killed. In the end, Kiseki managed to escape from the warehouse and then killed their father. But before he died, their father asked Takeru to kill Kiseki, and if he couldn't do it, he had to protect her. So Takeru, in the end, chose to protect her. After being in the cell for a while, the student council president finally frees Takeru and informs him that Kiseki was attacked by Valhalla. Without wasting any time, Takeru immediately left to save his sister. Luckily, all of the 35 platoon members chose to help out. It was true what the student council president said. However, on the way, the group carrying Kiseki was attacked by the Valhalla troops led by Urachi. Realizing who was in front of him, Kurogane then told Kyoya to take Kiseki away while he would face Urachi. But apparently, Kyoya still thinks Kiseki must die, so he stops the car and tries to kill her. Luckily, Takeru arrived just in time to stop him, and they got into a fierce battle. The fight was ultimately won by Takeru and Platoon 35, who immediately freed Kiseki. But just as Takeru got her out of the car, Haunted reappeared and stabbed him. Seeing his brother badly injured, Kiseki can no longer control her power. Instead, she began to transform, steadily growing to an enormous size, causing damage to the city and absorbing the people and buildings she touched. Meanwhile, Oka tries to save Takeru. But to do so, she had to defeat Haunted first. And so, the battle between Oka and Haunted was inevitable. However, Oka was overwhelmed in the face of Haunted. Moreover, Kiseki's body made it harder for her to move. Having no other choice, Oka is forced to make a full contract with the Relic Eater, Vlad. And with her new power, she managed to defeat Haunted, which was absorbed by Kiseki's body. After that, Platoon 35 came and took Takeru and Oka away. On the way, Ikaruga explains her suspicions that they can't stop and kill Kiseki because she doesn't want to be killed by anyone except Takeru. So if Takeru doesn't want to kill her, she will continue to live forever. Takeru, who is still unconscious, dreams of meeting Lapis, who reminds him of what she said back when they first made the contract. Takeru had promised to give up his humanity in exchange for strength, and now she's claiming that promise. He is finally willing to obey Lapis and accept her completely. In return, she ate his soul and gave him god-slaying power. At the same time, Kiseki's body that has spread throughout the city trapped the 35th platoon, and they are completely powerless to deal with it. Moreover, Kiseki's body begins to split open and release flying demons that attack Oka. At this moment, Takeru woke up again with stronger armor. He then bid farewell and told them to leave immediately, before his soul was completely lost and he could no longer control his body. After that, Takeru went to find Kiseki. But before he could approach her, Haunted again appeared and attacked him. Haunted was apparently not dead even after being absorbed by Kiseki's body, and he still insists on bringing Kiseki to Valhalla. However, with his newfound powers, Takeru can put up a fight against Haunted, so he tried his best to quickly defeat Haunted, and he did it successfully. After there were no more obstacles, Takeru was finally able to come to Kiseki and calm her down, making her body shrink back to normal. On the other hand, the members of Valhalla, who realized their efforts had failed, decided to retreat. But despite all that, that doesn't mean Kiseki's curse has disappeared. Takeru still has to protect her, and for that, he planned to add her to Platoon 35. Fortunately, all the platoon members supported his plan, so they will protect Kiseki together. And the Anti-Magic Academy anime ended. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that one of the most valuable things is family and friendship. No matter how difficult the circumstances we face, we must put our family and friends who we love above.